the internet to market their business. And this we found mostly among young women in the urban areas. And we didn't find any difference between male participants and female participants. I think in the urban areas, the young group or the youth who have access to phones usually are likely to market their product online through WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and some other online platforms. For the women in the adult women, right? For the adult women, we realize the use of technology or digital solutions for business operations was low. Many of them reported they did not have the skill to be able to run or use the internet platform. And then these days, the use of mobile money is also facilitating business. Like I said earlier, people make payment and receive payment for their business using the mobile money platform. Okay, so why is it that some women are not able to use technology or mobile phone, even if they have it, to run their business or take advantage of it to promote their business, etc.? One of them is low digital skills. Many of the women, especially those in the older age cohort, reported that even if they have access to the smartphone, mostly they cannot operate it or use it on the internet. They have to rely on somebody. So low digital skills or digital illiteracy is a key constraint to the adaptation or penetration of digital technology among women businesses in the informal sector. And then there's also the issue of poor internet connectivity in the rural areas and even sometimes in the suburban areas. That's also a big challenge there. So that also constrains people from effectively using the internet and the digital services available. And then the high cost of data. People also mentioned that the cost of data is high. And so it also threatens the ability to continuously buy data and be online and sell their product, etc. So that is about technology. Another thing we looked at is that during the COVID-19 pandemic and after the lockdowns, there were various support services available. I mean, government made available support. I think some NGOs also made available support. So we're looking at whether women operating businesses in the informal economy were able to access some of these services. Generally, most of the women reported knowledge about the existence of some of these services. They knew that there was a package from the government, some NGOs, and even some financial institutions were willing to give credit to people because of COVID. But then the process of assessing and how to assess it, what is involved in assessing some of these services or some of these packages available, the knowledge in it was very low among these women. So in a nutshell, I think very few or a small number of the women that we spoke to really had access to some of these services available, being it from the government side, the COVID relief support, or even loans or credit from financial institutions. For the government support, for example, some of them, I think the main challenge they had there was when they had to apply, then they were struck with some requirements. You had to register your business, in some way. You need to have a TIN, you need to have a bank account. So most of them didn't have some of these things. They now began going through the process, and I think it was a challenge for them. So generally, majority of the women who said they applied for some of these support services said they didn't receive, or at least as at the time we spoke to them, they had not received anything. There were also a few, just about 4% of the women who said they were able to get support from some informal networks, family, friends, and so on. And then we also had some of them interestingly reporting that they were able to leverage on this digital financial services, like what the telcos, these days the telcos have mobile quick loans, right? MTN, Momo, they have quick loans. So some of them said they took a quick loan from the mobile money platform. And then just about 14% of the women in the urban areas indicated that they had access to loans from some financial institutions. So in a nutshell, I think access to support services and the social safety nets within the pandemic was very low among women running these informal businesses. There were, beyond the financial support, there were those that said they counted on informal support. It could come from their husband, from their families, from their friends, and the social network that they have around them. So that was also helpful during the pandemic for them to navigate the shocks that came with it. So when it comes to the access to financial services and safety nets, the main constraints there for financial institutions, there are so many reasons that put some of these women off, and some of them also naturally makes them not qualified, right, to access some of these. So some of them include the high interest rates that some of these banks charge. They feel it's not worth even going for it. It can threaten your business. It can collapse your business. And then sometimes the tenor, the loan tenor, the duration is not favorable for them. Okay, but I still want to talk about the government. For the government support service, the issues were around people needed to register for a TIN, which most people or most women didn't have. So that was a challenge for them. Some also needed to have an account, right? And then the application, I think, was also done online. So they needed to do this application online. All of these things were challenging because most of them couldn't do the online application. They didn't have the TIN. So, yeah, and to a large extent, I think the information flow as to exactly what you need to do wasn't there for them. So that was also a challenge for them to access. Yes. So another thing we looked at is, so what are the recovery and then resilience strategies or lessons that are there to ensure that these businesses are resilient and to shocks in future, and even as we still grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of the women, I think even almost everybody, said that they needed money to inject into their business if they can really be resilient. And then most of them still count on the availability of informal networks around them. Non-financial support is also key. Most people are saying that they think they need to save more because it was their savings that really helped them during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns. And then a number of them are also saying that there's the need to diversify their products or their business so that if one business is failing in the heat of COVID, for example, you can rely on another one to survive. And then another approach or option that some people are exploring is they need to cut down on unnecessary expenditures so that they can be prudent with their finances, right? And then others were saying that they think they need to improve the quality of the product and the service they offer so that they can probably attract new customers going forward. So in terms of recommendations, we have made several suggestions that will help to improve access to services, support the resilience of these women businesses. If it comes to technology, how do we ensure that there's digital inclusion in the system? So we are talking about there's a need to improve access to financial services through, when you need to design financial services or financial products that really work for this category of women businesses who are not able to qualify or go through the cumbersome process in the formal financing arrangement that we have. They need something that works for them at their level. So that needs to be considered. And then there's also the need to encourage these women to kind of go through some business registration, something that will help them so that in the event of a pandemic or a shock, when there is a service or any program being offered, either by government or by even the non-governmental organizations, they could also access it. So they need to register or encourage these women to go through some form of registration. It could be progressive, wherever it is, but they need to look at that registration issue. And then we are also looking at, there's a digital skills gap, right? Most of the women, even if they have access to phones, they cannot really take advantage of internet and among other things. So we need to look at how do we improve skills among women in this informal economy so that they can also be moved along on this digital inclusion drive that is currently happening. And then there's also the infrastructure deficit in the rural areas, but also in the peri-urban areas, which there's a need to invest more in digital infrastructure to bridge that gap as well. And then most of these women, I think the businesses are run on the idea of subsistence. So they do not really have any growth plans to maybe expand the business and so on. So I think we need to orient them to also look beyond just subsistence, but to be able to build more resilience and growth strategies so they can be more productive, they can grow, and they can expand and be able to generate more income, etc. And then we think that if you're able to create a community of practice, where women are able to share knowledge among themselves, right? It's also going to help those that are not doing so well to learn from their colleagues that are doing well. So these are some suggestions or by way of recommendations that we have put forward. So that brings us to the end of our very long presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Okay, Inti, yeah, the Bekochi, na ya fast. Inti Alex to ankomone sono. Said the midi kai no. Obeka digital solutions. I kai internet, abefo niema, social media, WhatsApp calls, acquire fast so use technology at the businesses. Na no ya omuka say. Who say madu do na no omu phone the omu obi na phone no anyama etimi ye de boy business ne ye calls digital marketing say bi obi wo ho WhatsApp otwa anyama na oton no their any status otimi send them an customers no maka say me pay we no their brand no say wa hu aha na ebi so ye digital payment momo di obi anim eno so ye ekwan a efa so etimi boy or your businesses. Now we are shemu no de omu hu ye ne say omu say sa niam we nyina wo ho de but ema no na dodo na eyanim de a ye de call internet so e call download niam e call so check bias e call ya advert e send niam no na sa nim de no dodoɔ na no wɔn ni bi nti wɔn sɛ wɔ phone deɛ but ebi a onim sɛ deɛ yɛkɔ live Facebook anaa yɛkɔ baabi ɛkɔ tɔn nneɛma no ɛna baabi nso wɔ hɔ a na wɔn wɔ especially wɔn wɔ nkuraaseɛ no ɛhɔ no network na nyɛ wobɛfrɛ obi ade sɛ wokɔpɛ baabi ansa na wobɛgyina yɛkɔ obi frɛ wakɔɔ ne mma nti no wɔn soso no na wɔ saa kwan no so no amoa wɔn ɛna ɛtɔ da bi soso ana data internet cost no data no ne cost no ebo yɛ den nti onipa ko no onye kakra a ɔde bɛ bundle na ɔde akɔ online akɔyɛ saa mekɔ live na nka ɔne me wahyehyɛ mini metɔn nneɛma wɔ ha nti wohia me a bra me momo number nie utua kana wapɛ ebia dispatch rider bi kra na ɔde abrɛ dodoɔ na ɔmo ni data a ɔmo de bɛyɛ sɛ adwuma no na yɛkɔ financial support a ɛyɛ sika ho asɛm ɛno no ɛma no dodoɔ na aka sɛ wɔn yɛ aware wɔn nim sɛ aban ka sɛ wɔboa wɔn yɛ businesses NGOs ahodoɔ na bi so ka sɛ wɔn boa wɔn a wɔn wɔ businesses wɔ sika fam nanso normal ntimi ɛnsa nka saa sika no bi efi sɛ na nneɛma bi te sɛ ansa sɛ ɛbɛma o sika no bi wɔ hɔ a na sɛ wɔwɔ bank account wɔn ni bi na sɛ ebi wɔ hɔ a wowɔ tax identification number ɛyɛ 10 na wɔn ni saa number no bi nti no ama wɔn ntimi ɛnya saa benefit no na loan so ɛgye wɔ bank no na interest rate no so nti nipa dodoɔ na no ama wɔn ntimi ankɔ bank ankɔgye loan nti wohwɛ a ebi so ɛyɛ bɛyɛ 3% deɛ quick loan yi wɔn kɔbɔ ɔbɛsia kakra wɔ hɔ ɛna bɛyɛ 4% so deɛ wɔn gye sika free wɔn abusuafoɔ ɛne wɔn nanfofoɔ hɔ no na ɛboa wɔn ɛma wɔn tumi de manage wɔn businesses na wɔn nneɛma nyinaa yɛayɛ nne yi adesua a yɛasua fi nhwehwɛmu yɛyɛ ne sɛ wɔ business ɛyɛ mu no financial support ɛho hia sɛ woka sɛ woyɛ business a wobɛhia sika sɛ wonni sika a wode wura businesses ne mu a ayɛ ɛno no ɛmoa ɛna afei so no ɛnyɛ sika nko ara na ɛboa ma businesses ne gyinaeɛ sɛ ebi wɔ hɔ a wobusuani bi boa wo obi tuufo ɛkwan a wobɛfa so manage businesses no even ɛmaa no dodoɔ na sɛ obi koraa bɛgye wo ba hwɛ no because COVID time no nkwalaa no ɔmo nkɔ school na ɔmo wɔ fie nti mean sɛ wo na wokyerɛ ɔmo adeɛ wo san hwɛ ɔmo wo san yɛ business sɛ wonya obi ma no sɛ ɔma mu a ɛno koraa tumi boa ɔma wo business no ɛkɔ so ɛna afei so yɛsua sɛ wowɔ multiple streams of income sɛ bi a wowɔ kwan bebree so a wonya sika bi a woyɛ adwuma wei kakra woyɛ wei kakra ɛno no so boaeɛ nti ahadeɛ no wɔ fam a na wo adwuma baako no deɛ sika kakra firi hɔ no so ɛboaeɛ ɛna afei so no wo cut down on expenses ɛsɛ nneɛma bi a ho hia paa sɛ wobɛyɛ no wotwitwa so a ɛno no boa ma wotumi ɛma no tumi sie sika anaasɛ ɛboa ma ɔmo sikasɛm no ɛkɔ soro enti ɛhwehwɛmu yɛ nyinaa wie ne ɛsɛ nti wei nyinaa mo kan ne korakora ne sɛn ɛdeɛn afotuo anaa adeɛn na fi nhwehwɛmu yɛ borɔfo kasam yɛbɛkasa recommendations enti ɛyɛ yɛ mpanyinfoɔ yɛ ɔmo di nhwehwɛmu yɛ anim ɔmo sɛ ɔmo susu sɛ yɛyɛ nhyehyɛe wɔ sika ɛkwanya ɛbɛfa so ɛnyɛ sika no ayɛ sɛ tailor made finance sɛ ɛmaa na ɔmo yɛ business interest rate bi wɔ hɔ a ɔmo ntumi nkyia de sɛ yɛte so ma ɔmo bibi wɔ hɔ a sika bi wɔ hɔ bi a ɔgye a ɔma no 6 months a ɛbɛyɛ den but ɔma no te sɛ 12 months a ɔbɛtumi atua nti kyɛ sɛ wohwɛ onipa ko ne ho ɛne ne business ɛne sɛdeɛ n'ahoɔden te ɛne ɛde no ɛhwɛ so yɛ package ɛyɛ ɛkwan a bɛfa so abɔ ɔmo bɛsi anaa support ɔmo a ɛno no bɛboa se ne sɛ wɔ ha deɛ yɛma loan na yɛ interest rate nie saa ne ɛyɛ no ɛyɛ fo obiara afei so no mpanimfoɔ yi sɛ ɛho bɛhia sɛ yɛbɛ create awareness ne yɛtu ɛmaa a ɔmo wɔ ɔmo business yi fo sɛ woyɛ business a sɛ wo register business no sɛdeɛ dodoɔ no akaeɛ no Emo ane free aban ho ne adwuma ku ahodo no. Obi wo kwa yesa na won register ne business nti no. Wenti mi enya sa akwanya no. But senka when you register ne business or 10 or we ya nanka sa akwanya ne bae no ko betimi enya sika kakra a support ne business. Afei so no. Mpenifo say eye brofo kasam yesi digital skills. Ana niema ebeboa ya me so yakọ internet hobby. Akọ de ekọ so wo wiase. Ama internet no so aboa ya ama ye business akọ yanim no. Eho behia sa ye bekyere emma dodo na sa niema no. Say bia wo phone na sign na ye call phone so me pese me send me frɛ obi me pese me di momotu akakra sign na ye no. Me pese me call ebia social media na me kwaya advert niema me ton se Facebook o se WhatsApp o ye kyerɛkyerɛ ma sa de na ebɛboa omo ama omatimi aye digital marketing bi ana se dwedie ye kodi wo internet so no se wa hu eno no betimi aboa wo. Afei so no mpanifo omo ye nhwehwɛ mu san so ka se eho behia se ye bɛy ye investment wo digital infrastructure. Said ya meka kan no eka medi kan say bi wo ho enkrase no internet network e wo ho nya wo firi obi kra wo bebra say na mast bi no mo de besisi wo ho bibia telephone ne ma telecom ne ma mo be ye wo ho no beboa ma networks na wo enkrase no so be better said ya emfa ho ba bia wo bia oti akra obi we kra otimi nya access to internet otimi firi obi a odane dem kra otimi epeke call no ede ye business eno no ebeboa na fe data cost na ne board ndendin ama to data asisi ya na asa no se yetimi ye ho bibi so eno so ebeboa yen ena de chat okra no eho behia se ye be kyerɛkyerɛ ema ye omo ati omo business wo ho enye se wonya idea se obeye business de be ho behia se de on be fan titie mu amoma ho kwan a ye fa so di dwa no ese ye dwa ya medie me wo plan wo mani so ese ebedi afe na se business na du ha ekwan ya me fa so save so dem me customers be kasa se wo benya nimdie a na wo be boa wa ma watimi adi dwa ne yie na de atwa to so ne se ye be ye nhyehyɛ bi a ebe boa ma bi e ma ye adwadefo nyina ebe hia wo baabi na ye di nkomo te se de na ye wa ha na ye share lessons no hu na wa hu obi o se mi krom me ton ade a ye nto o me de ne de ye to ade na wo ye ya ma wo de na ye better no a kyerɛw me customers na mo ba me ti manim me yese na wo so asua na wo de a kyerɛ afefo enti ye dwumadie bi sa ebeboa ma emma ehyiehia edi nkomo ewo mo businesses no ho ahwekwan a ebefa so ama ye businesses no atumpon a eno so ebeboa enti na nhwehwɛmu a ye ne presentation ye ka no brofo bebre no de ma try say me de beba twi ama ye nyina so yate ase ya obobo mo sama ma me bi okay na dwumadie na me ne me maame na ye hwɛ so say bibia bɛkɔ fine na me maame wa ha ye frɛ no Auntie Chris Dazi or ye PDA associate nti baby a ye dream meto me nsa frɛ no na waba no abeto aso na aye questions and answers o question bia feel free wetimi aka brofo wetimi aka chi dagban likasa bia opese o ka bia be po bia ma na translate ya mai ya mo yensem welcome mama Chris.
The person I am telling say, if there are any questions on the presentation that we've made so far, if we can, any questions from those of us here, then we'll take those from outside online also. Are there any immediate questions? I have one myself, even though I've been reading and following this whole thing. One main thing is how much help have we had from the is it the one that Madame Kusi Yankee has been working on? I saw her name on the list. I know I didn't think she would be able to make it back, but because she has a tiny baby also. But if there's anybody here who can answer that question to start with, have we had any help? Any help from COVID? This one I'm throwing it to you. Can anybody answer? Help us answer so that we link it to it. Has anybody had any help from the SSI or from LEAP or from any government intervention since this COVID-19?
Thank you so much. Yes, some colleague of mine had some help, financial support from NBSSIs, but it's just something small. The reason being that their businesses are not registered. So the amounts that they are supposed to get, they didn't get because the business is not registered. But some help came from NBSSI.
Yeah, it was because of the COVID intervention.
Yes, but their business were not, it was something like a loan. So if your business is not registered and you are supposed to pay back, how do they trace you to take back the loan? So some requested for 4,000. 4,000, they were given 1,000 out of the 4,000 because your business is not registered. Those who had the documentation right, they had the full amount they requested for.
And how?
So, and they have an opening window. You are supposed to apply within a certain period. And there was a lot of pressure on GRA to provide you with the TIN numbers. So that made it limited. It's only few that have the TIN numbers that were able to, and some also don't have bank accounts. So that made it, because the requirements were so much that if you are, let me say the word illiterate, you may not be able to navigate your way through. And some people also use other people's account number, which they were not in agreement with the rules of engagement.
Well, thank you, because eventually it's about getting solutions, further solutions that we need to add to make sure that we get through with this. Yes, ma'am.
And to answer your question, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we had education from them, how the process would be. Initially, we thought that since we are a registered group, we could use the registered group to access the funds for the small enterprises that do not, that have not registered their businesses, or may have the set bank accounts to access the fund. And like my brother said, the process was very troublesome. The demands were many. But finally, we were disappointed that we couldn't use the group to access the funds for our members. So as I speak now, it's only one single soul of our association who told us that I was able to access. Thank you very much.
So that's another area we need to look at, whether getting groups it will be easier to get through with those. Yes. I saw a hand.
Thanks for the opportunity given. I'm an entrepreneur. I registered and I have my my bank account. I applied for the fund for the COVID-19 fund and I didn't get. But I have all the requirements, but I didn't get anything.
What could have been the issue? What prevented you from getting it in spite of?
I can't best tell. I follow it and I became tired, so I just leave it.
Yeah. I think we'll get on to that discussion after this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
For me, I have a question. My question is reading through the research and the documentation and the recommendation as well. I thought to be during the recommendation, the researchers should have been provided us with sort of, when you look through the women-led businesses, you can see that there's a gap in why some of these women were not ready to be doing the business. Some because the process in which they wanted to register the business, which type of business do you want to register? Is it the sole proprietorship and wherever it is? So I'm asking, what is the model, or what is the way of how do we register some of these women-led business? That's question one. And then after that, when you look at the digital space, we were talking about some people use the digital space, digital marketing to be able to have it. But then when you look at largely the rural people, they were not having that treasure. What will be the sustainability model going forward? Not focusing much on either our dumb phone like the researchers said, not necessarily focusing on the digital space by using those smartphones. But is there a way where we can use our smaller phones to be able to do some of those markets? What will be the sustainability while we continue to do digital? But what will be the sustainability? Are we going traditionally talking to people personally? Or what form of way can we make sure that our business grows wherever we be the case? So that's thank you very much.
Yes, I hope you hold on to that thought so when we come to the general discussions, you can come up with some solutions for us.
Okay, I have just one question. I would like to know who our target audience are for the recommendations that were listed above, because almost all of us here, we were in one way or the other affected by the pandemic, and it still hasn't left us. So who are the researchers recommending to? Is it for us or for which organization or for which government institution that we will need to work on these recommendations? Maybe Adam can help.
Alex? Where's Alex? Can you help with that?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. I think when you look at the recommendations, we are recommending to, or we are targeting different agencies, some government, some non-government, but development partners. So for government, I think we, some of them go to the MBSSI now, I think Ghana Enterprise Agency. When it comes to the issue of registration and maybe educating the women businesses, the women entrepreneurs to register their business, all of those things, we think that the MBSSI, the Ghana Enterprise Agency, can play a lead role in that. working with the district assemblies and then the district, municipal, and the metropolitan assemblies. Because when we are able to do that, these women can also generate revenue. It can benefit the district, it can benefit everyone in the district. So we think that MBSSI or Ghana Enterprise Agency has a key role to play at the district or local level. We'll be working with the assemblies. And then we also have like development partners like NGOs who also run programs to support women businesses. So sometimes it could also be a partnership between, let's say, the government agencies and then the NGOs that are interested in this kind of conversation.
Thank you. So we'll specify.
Yes, I think in the main report we have specified whom we are referring to for this recommendation.
Madam, would that suffice, or you have a suggestion to add to the list? Okay. Forward.
What are the plans that we have put in place? Because these are not new things that they don't already know. How do we ensure that ours will be worked on so that it can be more beneficial to the women that?
So to add to that is to say that we have a report and our policy recommendations or policy brief coming up, which we have freshened out all these details. So when it's finally out, we will target to some of these agencies that we are interested in for this conversation.
Yes, and to also add to that, I think we can now see like some of the development partners organizations like WUSC and others that work with women-led enterprises, women economic development programs and others. See, how do we help SMEs in the informal sector get registered, formalized, so that they can actually just build interventions that would provide various forms of education to the practitioners. They should work with cooperatives and associations in the space so that people understand what sole proprietorship is and why should we go for that, or why should we go for limited liability. Because it is clear, even though government is trying to provide some support for organizations in the space so that they navigate their way out of the pandemic, they are also interested in making sure that how do we get value for money? How would we be able to trace this organization? So if organizations are able to implement complementary programs to facilitate the process, the NGOs may not have the money to give, but they can provide that capacity and guidance to make sure that people understand why they have to register, what kind of registration they are actually embarking on, and then how that can guide them to get those support at the district assembly level and also at the national level with NBSSI or Ghana Enterprise Agency, and also I think Ministry of Trade. They have other rural enterprise development programs and how they can connect to those platforms as well.
Thank you. And I believe even from here, because we have your contact, you would be like primary people to help implement some of these things. Are we okay with that? Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you, madam. My name is Gosway Doe, representing Global Women Development Promoters. In the recommendation, I had select-made finances. So I want to know how can we achieve this tailor-made finances, and how sustainable can we get it done, so that perhaps it could be either our last resort of finances or our main source of finances as far as our project is concerned. Thank you. you. I mean, the recommendations that they enumerated, I picked one which was tailor-made finances. So this tailor-made finances or way of financing our businesses as small groups, how do we achieve it and how sustainable can we get it done so that going forward, even if we don't have any other source of income or finances, we can rely on it to do our businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. We looking at how do we develop alternative or tailor-made products, financial products for SMEs in the space, where I think there are a couple of innovations currently happening, which are some at the design phase, where how do we build alternative collateral schemes for SMEs in the space, and how do we leverage on social capital and social connections in the space as another form of guarantee. Because if you go to the open market, we have the traditional collateral system, which is the barrier why most of the SMEs are not able to. So I think it's a space that there are some conversations going on how do we explore that. And I think what has to look at is how do we also make sure that we understand the SMEs better, particularly women-led in informal sector. And what is the evidence that we are generating in terms of how they operate, characteristics, and what form of support are they getting already? If we, for instance, who are into research, pull together these evidences and we share it, that can contribute to that. But we are not in that position to develop the financial product, but we can present some of these evidences, share these evidences, which we believe will contribute to shaping that product. So after this, we are working on 2 other policy briefs, which will be shared, and some of them we will actually post them directly to those relevant agencies and other organizations in the space that we know are working on issues of financial inclusion and how do we ensure that this gap is bridged. So, for instance, we'll be happy actually to really have further conversation with your organization if you do some other things in the space like that, if there are some ideas and evidence that we can pull from what you do so that we can create that knowledge pool, and then we share, and we believe that that will contribute to developing that tailor-made financial product that will meet the needs of the people that we engage throughout this research process.
Any more issues or comments?
Yes. To add to that, like my brother has said, I think that to go about this in order to ensure these tailored main source of finances for our businesses, and as a group, we know that we are not one, we are not two, we are quite many in the groups. So we can come together as a group and then discuss the way forward by maybe bringing or pulling our source of income, like disposable incomes, pull it together, decide on an amount that we intend to contribute over the period, or within a few months, you will be able to gather some money, and then as a group, and loan amongst yourselves, and then continue to do your businesses. For instance, what we call VSLA, or Village Service and Loan Association, or Entrepreneurship Service and Loan Scheme. I think these are some of the things that we can look at as a group, and then by so doing, with time, we'll be able to mobilize some money to support your own businesses going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Nipacho, nkase nibisa asɛm fa nsɛmmisa a wodi nkae ebisa fa NBSSI no ɛho no. As at now no, yɛntumi nhunu ɛkwan na ɛfa so a ebi mu tumi nya loan no na ebi mu nso ntumi nya. Okay. Masɔbɛsɛm bisa no ne sɛ, since moyɛ more into research motumi across the length and breadth of this country to find out how COVID-19 no esidi wɔ how brɛ amanfoɔ no. Do you have any plans? Say mobɛkɔ so akɔyɛ saa research we say find out how ekobaya most people more apply for the NBSSI no entumi and drew some pempens one na sebeba so mitam yehu ebeko.
We the next one it's name no. Ye ni bisa ne say baby a won so wo no. Ana baby a wo ti a obetimi di aboa no bi wo kwa a obetimi di akyere mu kakra. Bisa ne say bio yen ya ye say hwehwemu. Ebinom nso ye bi nso ye ana ye ntimi nya momu hu ni nyina akoye adwuma no toss. Na me bisa say ansa na ebe yi ano no. Wan kasa wa ne ye bi kakra fa we hu ana. Can we get some help? Maybe one year.
Okay, me one of the beneficiaries needing me apply and me second. The only thing is say do me apply no omuchimu 2 and minya half. Now the me say me say a yinabano we walking straight to the office and all the particulars are not almost free no. Me making sure say me the call. And at the end of the day, we try seminar and telephone by contact. So day in and day out, now I keep calling her. Now me kindly say, Onka uni say me application. Abeto one more here sa adiano. After the Ghana has say would apply for bibina one year follow up more of times. Now we lie say everybody. One because it's not only one person who requested for this support. It was thousands of people. And every for good ways and apply. Some of them and for a full socket. And now almost a year into one more obey, but the good information, as most of information, Papa now is what they call no on phone call. It's only brown also no. Na and me and yeah successful and make sure say after so register me no nya information e wo me phone so ma me say bibia e de na akwa emu ma me keep me contact me in code number e de ma me bibia and I just made a follow up to time say me set me kind that was let's what na minute here yeah in inside can me
Yeah, how can I say come and let and say and the way can so yeah, or pray. Now, thank you, Piano, and you need everything nice. Then say, the better thing is yeah, one apply, you need a dear, and so what we are in. Nanta, let me educate me. Not your boy, you can say, you go back for any dear, of what another what. It is that. Yeah, point, the shepherd, you better watch it. May you defend from now. You can say,
Thank you. Please, I want to ask what this my brother has said. I want to speak to Elisa. The number you send to Nara. The Karama Lala Stable. NSDII. In that time. Never from the here. When register now. Never from the Barabato Lala Stockton. Stockton man in a Garatima. The Badala Hali. And the past has selling. Tapin one. The million one. Masabalan at the Alcia. So, for Lala application, I don't get that. You never come out. When I can out to buy about what I say. So, when I read the little yellow jelly, you see, can out to buy information. Just because you know my feeling that. Don't buy what I last week. But the water bath, I don't even get that. what I was saying is that this NBSI, we fill the forms and many of us the forms that we didn't get any help from them, especially these women-led applications. So they were not having the feelings that there's no need that people should come to them, ask them questions about this COVID-19, how they were able to face their problems and how they are able to solve them. They are now feeling reluctant to give out their experience to people who come and ask questions. And especially this NBSI, they didn't get any help. So because of the help that we didn't get, they are now saying that if people should come ask you questions, they will take you in your source, collect information from you within your source, your community, later on they won't give you any help. Then what is the use? There's no use that you open up and say they are here. And say we are here.
Thank God you are here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to just add up to what they are saying. For me, for instance, I apply as an individual and I have all the requirements. I applied for only 5,000 Ghana cedis. So when I follow it and I was now tired, somebody told me that why not you approach politicians? Why you didn't submit your particular to politicians? Others submitted and they had. Why? So that was what they were suggesting to me, and I don't know any politicians, so I have to back up.
Well, we'll get the politicians also to answer. I hope there are some of you here who are going into politics because it looks like we need a lot more in there than out here to help such people. I mean, it works. You need the politicians. So, or should we need the politicians or something like this? Maybe not, but let's see how it goes. Maybe she's going into local politics and help. Okay. I saw a hand back.
So thank you very much for the great discussion. I would like to take live experiences from two people. We first call Samira Salih, who's into declaration. Samira. Let's welcome her. Thank you very much. This was actually for my name is Samira. I'm into declaration. So during the COVID period, as you know, decor obviously we do with events, so there was a ban on social gathering, so business kind of stopped completely. So I thought of how I could keep my business going so that things doesn't completely fall out of place. So I took the time to explore and then work on my creativity. I added other services that I wasn't doing initially to my business, like styling, decor, photography, decor. Those ones didn't like need like those ones weren't like the normal event we used to do, like a wedding and party gathering. But then it is now what I am known for my decor and my balloon decor, which I introduced during the COVID period. And during that time, I had to completely depend on my personal savings from my business because it seemed like everybody was going through it at the same time. So you couldn't rely on somebody else. We're all battling in getting our business going forward. So I also took that time to take advantage of social media, most especially Instagram. So I kept on doing things on my own, in my own space, and then I put it online to like ensure that I accumulate and then keep my audience active so that hopefully by the time everything gets normal, I can still go back to business and still have my son. So COVID was hard, but Alhamdulillah, we did our best. So the little I can think that one thing COVID has taught me is strategy and flexibility. For a business to be able to survive, it has to be flexible because the word itself is dynamic. So your business has to be flexible for it to survive. Otherwise, if not for this idea and for this strategy, my business would have stopped completely during COVID and it would have been very hard for me to bounce back. So thank you very much. That's enough.
So much, Samira. Samira, so dear no train say COVID time no. You know so yeah, and so the sad period this year near my baby. No, I decoration, but not balloon work no ho. But the sad period this year said the balloon. A year decoration. This say be obi person obi nansen the abas on photo shoots. Pictures say be a woody birthday, so wedding, person ko chat pictures or the nyina ka ho. And sad time so no yeah social media or call internet so no ne customers engage you. No yeah we nyina said the by the time I never ba normal no na on lose the customers no mu so nim say Samira or ho when ya new ideas or your new businesses. Na ade a osua ye pa ne say we business asa we business and say we chinchinin say me de say na me ya me niema me nsesa say we flexible say eniema esesa na oso asesa na we sua ade foforo na no aboa ma business no akonkan Samira ye da ase ye mo yen say ma Samira. Next person I no so ba share the story ye Musa Shawana. No, yes, soap making and some other, I think, herbal products. Okay. Yeah, more and some welcome.
Thank you very much for the opportunity given. I'm Mr. Shawana Chintu. I'm from Tamale. Yes, I was into spices and other products. But when COVID set in, I decided to register my company as a herbal center again. So I decided to be producing herbal products in addition. So my customers were now buying the herbal products to treat themselves. So as I wanted to say, if people are in the world and they are not changing, like every situation has the way you handle it. You go this way, then the other go the other way. My business is I started a business with just with 20 Ghana cedis, and as I speak now, I had a lot. But during COVID, I was able to manage it so that I can keep myself in the business. So my fellow brothers and sisters, we have to a little bit in your business.
Much Shawana. Shawan also say any business no or started she was doing another thing, but COVID never no they herbal products no ho. Now also story no so I think lessons are Samira share and similar. Also say as I say we flexible. Kakra bi a wo bia no betimi a start. Also the 20 Ghana na start here. But because say ohwe sika ne so yie o manage in yie no. Say no business no ekoso nti said e kan na say we cut down unnecessary spending. Say we be save. Say we show sika ne business ne so yie na no so boa my business no ekoso. Say yamre nti no. Ya do stage your documentary be your person your show nti technical team no your best mo say documentary no mo be yi ama ye nyina yetimi ahwe bi ye mo say ye say enipa bebre na na your person ka mo share stories ne there but mo fan che yen say two pe na ye frɛ obi fitamale mo kwan wa nti say ye twitwa na e ma so short na ye pontem. Inti documentary no sama ye ready ye besha we so documentary no so be me more about the story.
My aspiration was to have a production center so that I can supply, I can produce large quantity and supply. That was what I was thinking, and to get a van, something that can transport my goods, even if the place is far, something that can transport the goods from that place to town to deliver. And all these plans have gone down to zero.
Umomu deɛ yɛn esi m'ani so paa ne sɛ m'adwuma no a meyɛ no mekɔfa fie a mede kae na ɛkɔ meba nso a mede kae na ɛba nti afei deɛ mede si m'ani so paa sɛ na mepɛ sɛ metɔ kae a ebetumi aboa m'adwuma no mu a merekɔ a me nkwalaa no merekɔ dwa saa anaasɛ mekɔfa fie a ɛho nkyere yɛn nti alɛ ne baeɛ no ama sikasɛm ne nɔɔma ɛkɔ fam a kae no mentumi ntɔ.
Mehwɛ me area ha fashion school ha nti mpɛ sɛ meyɛ me school na covid ne maayɛ no na mayɛ m'adwene sɛ from this year January to December deɛ a yɛbɛsi 2022 no mu deɛ na mahyɛ ase but ɛsɛ yɛareɛ ne baeɛ na ɛmaa nneɛma kɔɔ fam nti sikasɛm nyinaa sokɔ fam.
Micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, have become integral in the economic landscape of both developed and developing countries. In some contexts, they are described as the lifeblood and economic muscles of economies, as they are largely recognized for their contribution towards employment, poverty reduction, economic employment. Available data in Ghana indicates that MSMEs constitute about 90% of registered businesses and form the core of the country's private sector, which constitutes about 70% of its GDP. Women have long been significant players in the informal sector everywhere, and their role is even more prominent in the context of Ghana. The 2018 Mastercard Index of Women's Entrepreneurship Report ranks Ghana first for having about 46.4% of MSMEs in the country owned by females. The predominance of women in this industry would paint the picture of available structures that promote women-led business. However, there is evidence to show both structural and economic barriers these women face. These barriers emanate from both internal and external forces surrounding these female entrepreneurs. The emergence of COVID-19 seems to have heightened these barriers. This documentary has provided a highlight of the impact of COVID-19 on the aspirations of female-led businesses and the coping and recovery strategies that were adopted to cushion these impacts. The study, targeting the whole country, looked at participants from the northern, southern, and central parts of the country. The study looked at participants of the Youth Forward program, YF, and non-YF participants. The Youth Forward initiative, which is a partnership with the Mastercard Foundation and 4 consortia, aims to improve the capacity of hundreds of thousands of young women and men in Ghana and Uganda to get jobs, grow their businesses, and access financial support.
I do ginger powder, I do dawa powder, I do granite paste, neri paste, and others. My mother, she sells the raw state. So when I was looking at her, I see that a lot of people, when they come to buy, they suffer to make it powder. So I decided to start. to process it in a powder form instead of them buying it themselves to process it. So that's the main reason why I started this business. I completed school, that is SHS, in 2013. So after school, I went to work in the fishing harbor as a cashier, like I count the money and that. So over there, I found the business interesting. So I decided to venture into it. So that is how come I came about this business. It's Eagle Nest Frozen Food. It's a food store and a small food store.
ade fam yɛ ade bi a m'ani gye ho ɛna na mekɔ school no so na m'adwene nyinaa me sɛ menyina me fam adeɛ nti mewie GSS no na me start sɛ mekɔsua wɔ bi hɔ
deɛ hairdresser no adwuma no me starteeɛ no bɛyɛ 7 years bɛɛ na mewɔ baabi na nyame adom me ankasa atumi ayɛ me deɛ a maba a bɛyɛ 3 years na deɛ nti a adwuma yi meyɛ ne sɛ mewie GHS mantimi antoa so na atwa sɛ menya nsaanodwuma na mede kɔsua hairdresser na nnɛ mabɛyɛ master a mede yɛ adwuma.
Chimchaya is a processing and shea butter processing group in Tamale. And I, Hajia Safura Victoria Idi, is their facilitator. And my duty is to see to it that the environment is neat, the welfare of the women, and then make sure that the quality butter is produced for our buyers from the UK. And we've been dealing with the UK buying for over 20 years.
The study, though focused on female-led businesses, included male entrepreneurs to assess the gendered relations of businesses.
You print souvenirs, you print posters, banners, and I signages. Now, me who say no signages no new system no kesi. Ona oyen, but souvenirs no the system no. Until me person me tuning me how to only signages and car brandings and those stuff. The signages no your electronic signages, the light so and the all reflective signages, the light and so reflectives no yeah communicating in the night very effectively.
We will then assess the impact COVID had on businesses as well as the initial aspirations of business owners.
Na adwuma ekoso weekends dia utimi nyada kokɔ unya adwuma kɔ uye bibia opam wade ayie nso ba unya contract wɔ ayi ase bibia unya bi but COVID ne ba ye ne de e ma bibia fɔfɔm because of say nya break here ye break here sorry schools ne nema ntino e ba ne sa na ye adwuma na ayɛ sɛ like nfaso bi ne ntino. Yes, I can say my obi and be in the shop on the day and see you to move to next year.
Maybe a shop in December, just barely 3 months, and COVID buying never said message so close it down view.
A lot of people were having problem with taking processed food because the community were saying that if the thing is in the atmosphere, so how we dry our things, they don't know. Or how we process it. So maybe by consuming the raw state, they are safer than by consuming our processed food.
Some had the intention, and I don't know how they came about it, that the chicken that was imported into the country has been injected with the COVID. The thing. So when they take it in, they will have the virus. So they weren't coming again.
No, be true. So, baby, since almost me and Bennipa, be brave me and Connipan be brave. Tina, my Jumano, Nebano, and Sister Fesson.
So true that our market went down thoroughly.
Yeah, and it's a to Fumushu, maybe our die Koja. In the phone in our Befumusho, never general money a day, echo. The arena by no more someone pray me gun any day. Ye, to the normal corner soldier for an police for no master and no man nom the other, no more the court. In the Sabio crook to move for and crash for number by Genoman. Obi Bejan a crowd was slow. Woman who said Genia, you was wrong. Into our bar was slow. A woman no man at the car, a police phone to meet to start. A no man in na the other the book came at the court. I'm the book come to police station. I'm said the Chebla police station. O quiet cow, but bonnet as a who he has over the over the Chebia for nice and no man no more than Effa. And a mice for some year back. And a no man is where the choir, a woman can be a dummy answer. If you are wasting musica, if you are 10 million, if you are 25 million, you almost have to know my word in a choir. Yes, I'm not the coin. And who's can name imagine you a situation one on no man. Says can acquire and sign a day, and maybe.
It has influenced a lot because the women used to get crowded here. Processing you tackle with women, talking about this social distance and then the masks, putting on the masks in heat. And sometimes when they are sitting together like with the children, it wasn't comfortable for them. That is the disturbing aspect of them coming together and getting crowded with the heat. So it was disturbing. Previously, the way people used to come even directly to this place to buy, they have to even carry it to the local market. There are some few people who still come to the market to buy. But the thing is that when they send it to the market, they want to buy it on credit base. They buy it on credit base. Then the next market day, they will come. Sometimes they don't even pay them. They will tell them the next market day, they will pay. That's the problem.
Before Corona, the time that we were here, even you can start in the morning up to evening or up to afternoon, you will not get chance to eat. You'll be doing this work while some people are waiting for you. But now, even they will call you from here to Kumbongo to come and then do some job. You will go there because of the work. And because of the Corona, that our work go down like that. So we are no more getting the work.
Though majority of the participants saw negative impact of the COVID, there were some that saw positivity in their businesses.
Before COVID, now the army and some design work no work, send it to me phone so. Now me the my clients, and now now me design work we are made to social media like Facebook and Instagram. Now mama I'm on for her me now COVID no buy no. Now me nya work no be cry na ma post. Then now the army and say me keep my business intact with the clients no. So almost frame me and make sure say me deliver bibi ama wo mo. Henti e ma me so me persevere say me sua bibi more. Iti me call online the me hwe ne say aside say me nya adwuma mu no de na metumi aya keep my business no. E na ma me call finance our software na me download it to my phone so. But you know poster design software. Oko Play Store na oboshe ma obinya no. And it say we need knowledge on designer won't mean your home adwuma. It is a Photoshop pepepe. Eboa me pa.
During COVID no me sha say many OPS Ghana enya nkita ho o ma me pam nose mask na ye de akọ communities ni villages ewo Accra na e de akọ for ma omo a omo ni bi na de ade. Ente through omo na omo boa me nkakra. Esan say adwuma na e bi mba e na ya to obi anya event nso nti no sa na mame a little support from omo.
COVID has impacted both male and female-led businesses equally, with a similar impact of being seen in the rural areas just as the urban areas. Participants then had to adopt strategies to help them cope with the situation and also come up with recovery strategies that could help in the impact of the COVID.
Yeah, but I said the could not soldier for one police for to Sasana. Yeah, Connie a high tail near the car. Yeah, consider will be fee. Now the nominal could go home. You do not go home and not continue to do what is there or the say. wo nso wobɛpɛ biribi ayɛ da ayɛ yi nti wogyinagyina nti sɛ wohu sɛ ɔkɔstɔma bi firi kaa mu asi a na wafrɛ na akɔ fie no ayɛ dɛn wakaka ne ɛnɔɔma no kakra ayɛ dɛn ama no nti na ma ekuro nketewa mufoɔ no na ɔmo nhyɛ da mma dwa na ɔmo mma dwa nti bi ɔmo ade kɔ a ɔmo mma na ayɛ basaa nti obi ɔmo ade ɔbɛba no na ɛsɛ sɛ wɔfoɔ so na ade ma ne sɛ mesrɛw nti na ɔkɔtɔ no ma no obi ɔkorɔ kɔ a ɔnyɛ dɛn ɔmma bio
sana mesevu ɛwɔ bank nti na agya ɛno bi na papa kɔ yi a ɔde bɛba bɛ totɔ biribi wɔ fie kakra kakra because of sɛ adwuma ɔno ana na mede m'ani ase so na ɛno ase na m'ani gye ho sɛ meyɛ nti mansua adwuma bi anka ho bio.
I changed ways of operation. Apart from the spices or the agro business that I was doing, I tried to change this thing. I went into herbs because it was sickness. People were struggling to live. I changed into herbal, and I registered my herbal center. I registered it as a herbal center because I have a license, but for a place to set up a herbal center, I don't have. So I was now processing the herbal medicine for my at my home. When I process, then I put it in my shop or I roam with it. Those who feel like they can take it and be fine, they will buy. So I was now selling the herbal products at the same time, selling my spices or my agri business. So that was how I was picking up small. And up to now, we are still working on it.
It was noted that there was a clear cut between the YF participants and the non-YF participants when it came to the coping and recovery strategies adopted. The YF participants were noted to have diverse ways of going about their businesses in regards to their product diversification, marketing, advertising, and customer relations.
COVID every year, no, and I mean it's neat. Woman be a me age man, or rent me renting konya one in ten. Catch me so neat for so more pay the creator be ya at the ama and me penny. That was from the 2 for no, but me ye on model for no more mono. And abo for no spell mo can so mo so many and say my baby ye on model for mom. So mo me number. Through that no mo ye bibia na omo ato mo transfer me so member na member ye and mom. And apart from a month to me wo in sorry around and so me ye on model for mom. And schools I wo me school back bi so from to one aya so me on model for no mom.
Then I'm here and say some sites you on my phone since you know me the call WhatsApp me idea to be any jun see COVID no echo from kakana you be no na e de juma na start to say e be very bad.
Me ankasa deɛ meyɛ hwee mmoa na mmom deɛ ɔmo kyerɛ sɛ yɛmfa balonica bucket nsi hɔ na obi ba a ɔnhye ne nsa na ɔnhyɛ nose mask na ɔnsanitize ne nsa no nti no ɛno na asa ama adwuma no ɔmo ba nti ɔmo ba na ebi wɔ hɔ saa na ɔmo yɛ sɛ ɛma ɔmo nsuro nti ɛno ara na ɛde akɔ so a.
Because people were now saying this thing, they have problem with taking processed food. I was like, my dreams have shut down. That was how I was feeling. I was thinking that everything has shut down. And I don't also know how to use the internet to let it reach those who are far away. So I was thinking that my chapter has closed.
It is worth noting that the YF participants have the advantage of undertaking entrepreneurial and business training as well as customer relation courses as part of their benefaction. In recent years, there has been a surge in the use of digital technology in marketing and advertising. In view of this, the study looked at the adoption of digital technology by participants. It was noted that social media, especially WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram, was the main source of advertisement for participants. The study found that participants use this media for learning new innovations that came up with their businesses.
and na me use smartphone before COVID. And na me ye ejuma area me traffic test na me dey do social media so. And the omo a mobehu eye omo fe no na omo contact me na omo we ejuma bi na omo dey mama ya ma. Me wo WhatsApp and Facebook. Most at times no me ejuma ni na free me WhatsApp business we na me ye no. And Facebook me nya siri a omo ina na omo pe flowers e ma me ye ma omo. Aboa me say na ma dodo na mo ananka omo nte randolph event enka ye no. Isi amu dodo na ate enka na bebre na so say omo ba be so ye ejuma so ehwe.
I can snap a sample and then send it on WhatsApp. Like, oh, I have fresh chicken in. Oh, I have got fresh mala or something. So I send it to them and they are like, oh, okay, it's nice. So then they come and buy. At times they doubt some chicken they are very tiny. So when I get the fatty ones, that looks fresh, I snap it and send it.
It was revealing that while women in urban and peri-urban areas found social media useful in marketing their products, those in rural areas did not.
Me use phones. Fan ye business bia. Ye no ane say. Go wa no aba. Me ni business to bia me try no bia.
Others did not see the relevance of it because they did not have to advertise their businesses.
Marketing it, actually, no. Body shop actually helped the women for such a long time, and then the process for them, and then they also sell it at the local level. So many people have heard about this, so we don't advertise it, even cry. We never even advertise it.
The challenges participants came up with the use of digital technology was their inability to use such a platform due to challenges with internet connectivity, high cost of internet data, and digital illiteracy on the part of business owners.
Challenge I must say about social media more the consumption of credit na the idea because I brain in and I was say utiminya credit or the before online I say why not send you message one and services na the idea. Maybe I was say what data or the before online and for
Majority of the participants shared that they had to rely on themselves in raising funds for their businesses.
Actually, I'm coming from a poor background. So since like this, I don't even need to go back. Because when I even tell them they can't give me, I'm supposed to work hard to support them. So if I can't give them, I'm not supposed to go to them to ask for more funds. And for friends, friends. It's not, or if you don't have a strong friend, you won't get.
Aside this, they mentioned that they received physical support rather than financial support from their families and friends.
Me busuafo boa bebre say abra na ye fam nose mask no me nko amentumi enye because of dodo na was say me fam no e na mo nso na ye ni omo adile na mo wo echeche nti na me nua no mo around nti de yenye hwia na ya behia na ya lock ye ho we nti na be police for ni be ha ye na we cha we eto na we mesu me fam se na be ya e be ko ni ntem
Mo akaka mnya nse yetutu yekrosu stores no na mekọ me papa mo because of say ho ne de opa untoshi omo ana omo ni say ye baba nti omo ana beto omo we di me papa ne fidi me kakra ko say isa baba.
Though they were aware of these support systems and applied for them, participants expressed that they did not receive these fundings.
MBSSI, I registered with them. That's National Board for Small Scale Industry. And they said they will support us. And up to now, we haven't heard anything. But they said it's on the way. So we are still waiting.
There were those who also expressed their dislike for financial loans due to the interest rate, the process involved, and the repayment of the loan.
Oh, okay. In this time, no, the every one say, "Once I buy me keys, I airport or yebi." I mean, him say, "I bought a fufu." But me, I always wait. I did be a will be the mammy no. Say if you, me wait. na me we no mehu sɛ wokɔgye no wɔde ma wa abaada ho woyɛ den a wobetua but percentage no na wayɛ den wate so mehu yɛ no manrahye sɛ mekɔ akɔgye.
Actually, because the business is on and off, the business is not that it has affected me a lot. So I don't want to take a loan and the loan fee will be stuck. I can't pay. They will close my shop. So I haven't gone for any loan. You have a lot of obligations. You yourself, you've been following me around. I have a lot of responsibilities to take. If they break, I make sure my children go to school. After that, I have business things that I'm supposed to do. And also, till I bring in my job. With my NAPO job, I have to go to work and do a lot of things. And being in fasting period, we have other things that we do, especially the last day. So if I were to be a man, maybe being a man, I would have been strong enough to do a lot of things or know a lot of things. But a woman, a lot of things has blocked my chances.
Them I be a maker say them and upon my dear cry. If you was out a juma, even if you call Saturday for your fear, I can't. It's near 2 women. Say I'm broke, so be uncle. So I tell you. It's at least or call for bit me a bunch of abeton, bit me a boy, the abeton. But 2 or banner to the wind to me conquer dog. So, by the overdo, I just say, who is cat? So I tell you. And I would the other bet them I don't want to bet me using a hoarding. The other crack. A crow bit me up when yes, can win good from you, betting in a hoarding, I bet. Or bind me if I'm a hoarding in yes, sir.
Ya bɛrima deɛ ase bɛrima deɛ wo nyɔnko bɛrima ɔne mu kwan bɛfa so a ɔbɛyɛ ne bɛrima nso sɛbi wo moyɛ hard sen yɛ nneɛma mu.
Okay, sɛ meyɛ ɔbaa na meyɛ saa adwuma wɔ yi a mmarima yɛ wɔ akoduro bi to the extent sɛ yɛbɛba no yɛbɛtumi agyina no enti akoduro no bi de sɛ te sɛ deɛ awie yi baeɛ a na adwuma mma na family nso da yɛ so a yɛn nso yɛhwɛ family no anhwɛ a na bɛɛde no bɛyɛ bebree wɔ ɔbaa so nti sɛ meyɛ ɔbaa na meyɛ adwuma wei a ɛnka ɛbɛte aba fam koraa so na menhu deɛ bi a me kunu ɛyɛ a ɔde bɛboa me ɛti nka ɛbɛte aba fam koraa na meyɛ bɛrima no deɛ mehu sɛ ɛwɔ sɛ me plan ahead nti yareɛ no baeɛ no na kakra a masie no na ɛwɔ sɛ metwetwe ne nkakra na mede yɛ dɛ mede boa abusua no.
We've learned lessons actually, and they are like the way they used to sit down crowded, and sometimes even you see somebody anyway we talk to them, but sometimes it's just like especially fasting time, spitting involuntarily, just sit down all of a sudden pair. We've learned and lost a lot from that, even though we have educated them, but it has added to those who don't actually want to go by that. And then secondly, washing of these hands is also very important. Even when somebody coughs, sometimes somebody will cough with another down and say, "Oh, you want to," but somebody will cough for you or getting closer and say, "Hey, Corona." That's a lesson learned.
Nea na mte ama na anwene ti ale bɛba ma na ɔma ayɛ dɛn ayɛ basaa edi de bia mbetu ne nkwala ne fo sɛ wo yɛ adwuma yɛ ni ne sɛ wo nyɛ sika a ɛsɛ wo sie bi na wo bo sika ho ban fifi ebi bi bedu wunim brofu ma bi betima ayɛ dɛn ato sɛ de yɛ a brofu mu yɛ ale ba ɛ ma sika sam ne nɔma ɛkɔ fam yɛ basaa no nti wuti hɔ mo na wo yɛ adwuma na nyɛ sika a ɛsɛ wo sie bi ɔtwɛn wo nsa na wo sie bi na sɛ ɛda bɔne mu na sɛ biribi to wa ho anyɛ dɛn ankyere nti
I didn't say free me saying. I was so one no more. The first thing is to obey you. Obey you. And the second one, obey you. because of the COVID by so we need Juma and I was one of kind of always got an idea will be the Amanasa. It's so where Juma you won't sound Juma not the we are. Even semi was that a diamond fan to be there why I ran out for my media Manasa. But Miss Alon's and Juma to be premier. It's me, I'm a home back. Every year, Juma send you a festival.
The lessons I've learned so far is I need to be how I need to learn how to use electronics so that in case of we don't pay for search, but in case of search again, then I can sit in my room and be selling my products through online. Because when I advertise and somebody in a class sees it, not only Tamale, somebody sees it somewhere, then the fellow can buy and I can send it online. Online means I can send it through car. If I package it well, the car, EMS, post office, or maybe somebody can come for it, that's it. So I need to build my system, electronic usage, so that I can go far. So that's a big lesson I've learned in my life. Because a lot of friends have gained more money during the COVID. They will sit in their rooms and they still get money. But me, I don't know how, even if I'm in my room, I don't even know how to use it. I have to get someone. And people were not even seeing each other. When you even go to somebody's house, they will give you time to leave because they don't want you to affect them.
So then I'm outside school, I was set a bit snappy 3 months. Never see. I often will bring who say, some of my best snappy 3 months in the end or the neighbor, no best answer and Juma. That's that you get one. It's almost me don't move back 3 months. I was happy 3 months and I say, or the coast to not have. It was our best year, one saba. It's in the same, and I didn't know she now a boy. Sadly, yes, a bit boy.
I hope you all enjoyed the video. I want to acknowledge the presence of here. We have Michael created in that blog. But I would like to know among them was how so that it happened at all. It happened at all. Today's discussion, we learn a bit about how to themselves to benefit from some of these things. And okay. Can you kindly pass the microphone to representatives from Maslock, Ministry of Trade and Industry, and even all the other institutions I mentioned earlier, so that they can share with us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, it has been an insightful research, getting to know that there are women who are out there trying to make a living for themselves and the family. The government being mindful of the role MSME play, and especially women play in our economic development, have come out with a series of policies and initiatives just to support them. And I would like to use this platform to mention that recently the president himself launched the Msme Policy. And the policy, as we all know, is to give direction as to how we would want MSMEs to grow. We have about 8 thematic areas, but I wouldn't spend too much time talking about them. But amongst them is the improving access to finance, which we have seen that it's really a bane when it comes to doing business in Ghana. You asked how the women could position themselves to take advantage of all these opportunities that are being made available. Government has, through NBSSI, which is now GEA, has established the business advisory services. And their role is to be a one-stop shop in helping MSME, especially women, to register their business. Because once their businesses are registered, they are able to take advantage of all the loans and schemes that are available to support them in their operations. And I know ABSSI has been doing well in that regard. And so I'll end here, and if there are any other further questions, we'll be available to respond to them. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. I'm told we have the representative from formerly NBSSI, now GE, Mrs. Kwafo Mensah. Can we please get a wave? Okay, you are welcome. So we would like to hear from you, even as our discussion is going on. So kindly prepare to share something with us on how women can position themselves to benefit from packages to promote their business. There was a hand up here.
Yeah, hello. I'm Usapia, and I'm representing YEDI. I want to ask Madam on the the loan. Okay. Please, how are we going to assess it? Because we've passed through all the process you required us to go through, and yet still we've not received anything. And still the COVID is hitting us hard. So I will plead with you that if anything can be done immediately, so that at least we ease ourselves. Right.
Thank you.
Well, once there is a representative from GEA, I think it will be appropriate for her to respond to his question.
Kwafo Mensah is behind there. Can we kindly hear from you?
Okay, so if I get his question right, his question was why has he applied and he didn't get the loan? Because he's been through all the processes. So first of all, we had over 900,000 applications with a loan value of about 6 billion, and we had to share 600 million. So definitely not everybody is going to get some of the money. So there's an application portal that you key in your details, and it automatically ranks you based on the information you provide. So for instance, if you are not formally registered, and then you say your employees are 2, and you're asking for an amount of 60,000, and your profit a year is about 5,000, definitely you can't pay that money. It's going to take you over 10 years, 15 years to pay. So definitely the system will rank you and flash you out. So a lot of the people who were not able to access the loan is because, one, they did not provide the right details. A lot of the people don't have bank accounts. A lot of them don't have financial statements. And this is a loan which is being administered through banks. So it's just like the bank process. So if you're not someone who is eligible to access a loan from a bank, definitely you will not be able to access this loan too. So a lot of people applied, but not everybody will get, because the money is just not enough, and a lot of people didn't provide the right information. So if he still insists, he can pass by any of the BACs like she mentioned, and they would actually be able to tell you what you did wrong, so that next time when you're applying, you'll be able to put in the right details.
Okay, that is very helpful. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. So our conversation is getting, there's a hand up. Okay, Hilda. Is it okay?
Hi. Okay, so my question actually goes to Mrs. Crawford. So I think with the NBSI SSI loan, one of the things we found was that most people didn't get feedback. I mean, people applied, and some of the information, what she just shared with us, most people didn't get to hear that. So just the few that are here that are now hearing this, is there a way the agency could ensure that people who apply for such loans can receive some feedback on maybe what they didn't do well or why they didn't access the loan?
So I think if you say we didn't send feedback, that's incorrect. Because for people who were disqualified because they used other people's Momo numbers, we sent them text messages and tell them, you are not able to access the money because you used somebody else's Momo. For those who used other people's TIN numbers, other people's bank account numbers, issues relating to fraud, we sent them back. And then we also sent a general message in December that the disbursement of the loan was going to run till 31st January, and that if you don't hear from us, it means that, like, that is it. What we didn't do was, so for people who have applied for loans, like the scenario I explained, that is not particularly wrong to say that because your business is not registered, you cannot go ahead and say you want 60,000. We can't do that analysis on all the 900,000 applications. So for issues that stand out, we told them. But if you think that you also didn't get the money and you want to go further and know why, you can come to us. But we actually sent some messages to some people telling them what they did wrong and why they are not going to get the money.
I think Auntie Doreen.
So the lesson from all this is that we shouldn't depend on other people. We women should get ourselves equipped so that when we are assessing, we can go straight to the relevant agencies and then ask all the questions. And there are people there to support. But when you want to pass it through a middleman, this is what happened. That's what I wanted to add up.
Okay, thank you very much. And on that note, we want to bring our dissemination workshop to an end. It's been a very insightful program. I have learned a lot. I believe you've also learned a lot. And I'll call Raymond Hodo to give us a close. You have something to say? Okay, Ray, hold on before.
Thank you. I think the organization has done a very fantastic, great job. But one thing I've noticed that our time, and must all respect time because time is money. Yes, when you mistake time, you cannot get it back again. We were told the program will start at 9 o'clock and by 11:30 we'll close. As of now, it's 12:07 per my watch here. So next time, you have to consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's well noted. So Raymond, come and give the floor.
All right. So thank you. Okay. So thank you for that comment or suggestion. I think we agreed we wanted to start at 9. Unfortunately, we were not able to start exactly at 9. And I think given the activities we had, the discussion, everything went on. And then we had to extend the time brief. Sorry about that. Okay, so I think so many issues have been discussed today, and there's a lot to take home. I think I just want to say, I mean, everything that has a beginning will definitely have an end, and at this stage, we want to bring this dissemination to an end, and we can't do that without saying a big thank you to all the participants who are here in person and then those who have joined us online as well. We are grateful for your time. We know, I mean, you have other businesses or other things to attend to, but you've made time to be with us here today. We are grateful. So, we say a big thank you to, I mean, those who came, both the business owners, the entrepreneurs, the organizations that have joined us. Then, I mean, everybody that participated. The program wouldn't have been successful without your presence, either in person or online. So we thank you all for coming. And I think the purpose of this dissemination is not just to share the research findings and then that ends it. We, at our end, we are hoping to publish some policy briefs which will be out. We will forward those to the appropriate agencies as well. And then for every one of us here, I think the message is, I mean, we still need to play a role. We all have a role to play. It's not just about government or the various agencies, but about all of us. As some of our women have shared with us, as business owners, we need to adopt good business practices to be able to sustain the business, whilst we look for other opportunities to support our business as well. Yeah, so on that note, I think say a big thank you to all once again, and we wish you safe journey back home. And then I think the last message I have for everyone is, I mean, COVID is still there. COVID is not gone. So as we leave, let's keep to the COVID rules. Let's keep our nose masks on, wash our hands frequently, as we are supposed to do, and stay safe. Thank you.